I always knew I was second best in my parents' eyes, but I never thought they'd skip my wedding. I'm Olivia, and this is the story of how my family's perfect image finally shattered, starting with an empty front row at what should have been the happiest day of my life. Growing up, the dynamic in our house was clear. My younger sister, Kate, was the star, and I was the supporting cast. Every achievement of hers was celebrated like a national holiday, while mine were treated as expected background noise. Kate gets an A in math? Time for a special dinner out. I make valedictorian. Good job, honey. Did you hear Kate made the junior varsity tennis team? Don't get me wrong. I love my sister. Kate's never been deliberately cruel or dismissive. She just grew up in a different reality than I did, one where her every move was applauded and photographed, while I learned to celebrate my victories quietly, by myself. Maybe that's why I went into event planning. There's something satisfying about creating perfect moments for other people, even if my own life was full of overlooked milestones. By 28, I'd built a successful business, planning everything from corporate galas to destination weddings. My parents barely noticed, too busy following Kate's journey of self-discovery through 3 different college majors. Then I met Daniel. He came to me as a client, needing help planning a charity gala for his pediatric medical practice. I remember the first time we met. He was flustered, running late after an emergency surgery, his tie slightly crooked. "I'm so sorry," he said, rushing into my office. Tiny humans don't stick to schedules. Something about his genuine warmth, the way he immediately put me at ease, felt different from anyone I'd ever met. By the end of our first planning meeting, we'd spent more time talking about our lives than the gala. He asked about my family, and I found myself sharing things I usually kept hidden. "It sounds lonely," he said softly when I described growing up in Kate's shadow. Being the responsible one, the one who's expected to understand. No one had ever put it into words quite like that before. Our professional relationship quickly turned personal. Within 6 months, we were dating. Within a year, we were living together. Daniel saw me, really saw me, in a way my family never had. He celebrated my successes, supported my dreams, and most importantly, made me feel like I mattered. When he proposed, it was perfect in its simplicity. No grand gestures or elaborate schemes, though I'd planned enough of those for clients. Just a quiet evening at home, after I'd had a particularly stressful day with a Bridezilla client. "You know what I was thinking?" he said, as we sat on our balcony sharing takeout. "You spend so much time making other people's special moments perfect. Maybe it's time someone did that for you." He pulled out a ring, his grandmother's vintage sapphire, reset in a modern setting. Before he could even finish his speech, I was saying yes through happy tears. The next day, I called my parents to share the news. Mom answered on the 4th ring, sounding distracted. "Oh, honey, that's wonderful," she said, in the same tone she used when I told her about my business success. "But listen, can I call you back? Kate just got some exciting news too. She's finally decided to graduate." My sister, at 25, had spent 7 years in college, changing majors like most people change clothes. Apparently, she'd finally accumulated enough credits in various subjects to qualify for a degree. "That's great, Mom," I said, trying to keep the hurt out of my voice. "But about the wedding?" "We'll talk soon, sweetie. Kate needs help planning her graduation party. It's such a big achievement for her. You know how much she's struggled to find her path." I hung up feeling deflated. Daniel found me staring at my phone. "They don't deserve you," he said simply, pulling me into a hug. I threw myself into wedding planning, determined to create the perfect day. As one of the top event planners in the city, I had access to the best vendors, the most beautiful venues. We chose a date in late May, a Saturday when the weather would be perfect for our garden ceremony. May 20th. I told my parents over dinner, 6 months before the wedding. I've already sent you the save the dates. Mom's fork clattered against her plate. Oh no. What? I looked between them, a familiar sense of dread building in my stomach. That's Kate's graduation weekend, Dad said. She's finally getting her degree, and the ceremony is that Saturday morning. But the wedding's at 4 p.m., I stammered. You could do both. Honey, Mom cut in, using her be reasonable voice. The graduation is in Boston. We need to be there to help Kate prepare, attend the ceremony, and of course there's the celebration after. We can't possibly make it back in time. Then come to the wedding instead, I said, hating how small my voice sounded. It's my wedding day. Dad shook his head. This is a huge moment for Kate. She's worked so hard for this degree. You understand, don't you? You're so good at handling things on your own. There it was, the familiar refrain. Good, responsible Olivia, who always understands, who never makes waves, who plans everyone else's perfect moments while her own fade into the background. Can't Kate walk in a different ceremony? I asked. Most universities have multiple graduation dates. We can't ask her to do that, Mom said firmly. This is her moment. She's so excited about graduating with her friends, and you know how she struggles with change. I looked at Kate, who was staring at her plate, unusually quiet. What do you think, Kate? I asked directly. She glanced up, then quickly looked away. I mean, I've worked really hard for this. And I haven't? The words came out sharper than I intended. I haven't worked hard building my business, creating a life, finding someone who loves me. That's different, Mom said dismissively. You've always been the capable one. Kate needs us there for support. I stood up, my chair scraping against the floor. And I don't? It's my wedding day. Be reasonable, Olivia, Dad sighed. There will be plenty of people at your wedding. Kate's graduation is more important right now. More important. The words hung in the air like poison. I left dinner early that night, driving home through tears. Daniel was waiting up, and one look at my face told him everything. They're not coming, are they? I shook my head, collapsing into his arms. Then we'll make it so spectacular they'll regret missing it for the rest of their lives, he said firmly. Looking up at him, I felt something shift inside me. All my life, I'd accepted being second best, being the one who understood, who gave way, who compromised. But not this time. Not my wedding day. Yes, I said slowly, a plan already forming in my mind. Yes, we will. What my family didn't know was that being the city's top event planner meant I had connections, lots of them. And I was about to use every single one to create an event that they'd never forget missing. They thought Kate's graduation was more important. Fine, I'd show them exactly what they were choosing to pass up. The morning after that disastrous dinner, I sat in my office, staring at my extensive contact list. Years of planning other people's perfect moments had earned me favors with the best vendors in the business. Now it was time to call them in. First call, Marco, the city's most sought-after florist. Darling, he answered on the first ring. Tell me you're not canceling next month's Henderson wedding. Actually, Marco, this is about my wedding. There was a pause. Your wedding? The one you're planning yourself? Olivia, me amor. I thought we talked about this. You know the saying about doctors making the worst patients. Things have changed, I said, my voice steady. My parents won't be attending. They're choosing my sister's college graduation instead. The silence on the other end was deafening. Marco had done the flowers for my sister's last 3 graduation parties, the one celebrating her switching majors. Those bastardos. He finally breathed. What do you need? Everything. I want people to walk in and forget how to breathe. I could practically hear him rubbing his hands together. The garden concept we discussed, but elevated. Crystal-draped trees, floating flowers, illuminated pathways. We'll make the Queen of England's wedding look like a backyard barbecue. Next on my list, Philip, the French pastry chef who normally had a 3-year waiting list. Ma chérie, he cooed when I explained the situation. Say no more. I will create something so spectacular. Your parents will weep when they see the photos. 6 tiers minimum, hand-painted sugar flowers, gold leaf, the works, and for the groom's cake. Daniel loves astronomy, I offered. Perfect. A galaxy theme in dark chocolate and mirror glaze. The stars will actually twinkle, I promise you. One by one, I contacted every top vendor I knew. Charlotte, the lighting designer who'd worked on Olympic ceremonies. Jin, the photographer who shot for Vogue. Eduardo, the cocktail genius known for his molecular gastronomy creations. Each one listened to my story, and each one promised to outdo themselves. No budget constraints, I told them all. I've been saving for this my whole life. It was true. While my parents poured money into Kate's ever-changing college career, I'd been quietly building my nest egg. Now it would all go toward creating something unforgettable. When Daniel came home that evening, he found me surrounded by mood boards and sample books. Should I be worried? He asked, only half joking. I showed him Philip's cake design. His eyes widened at the rotating galaxy tire. Okay, that's amazing. But Liv, you don't have to do all this just because of them. I'm not, I said, realizing as I spoke that it was true. I'm doing it for us. For once in my life, I'm going to create my own perfect moment, not someone else's. He kissed my forehead. As long as you still show up to marry me, the rest is just details. But the details were everything. Over the next few months, I threw myself into planning with an intensity that surprised even me. The garden venue was transformed into an ethereal wonderland. Marco's team created a canopy of crystal-draped cherry blossom trees that would light up as the sun set. Charlotte designed a lighting system that would make the entire garden seem to glow from within. The invitations alone were works of art, hand-calligraphed on handmade paper, with pressed flowers and gold leaf accents. I sent my parents' invitation via registered mail, requiring a signature. They needed to actively choose to reject it. When it came back with my mother's signature, I filed it away carefully, evidence of their choice. The RSVPs started pouring in. My vendor's appreciation for the situation had spread through the industry grapevine, and suddenly everyone wanted to be part of this wedding. Celebrity photographers offered to second shoot for Jin. Award-winning musicians asked to perform at the ceremony. My mother called occasionally, always with the same message. I hope you understand why we can't be there. Kate needs us. Each time, I responded with detailed updates about the wedding plans. The hand-painted dance floor is being installed next week. The vintage champagne is being flown in from France. The string quartet that plays for the royal family is learning Daniel's favorite song. I could hear her hesitation growing with each call. Good. Then came the society page coverage. One of my regular clients was a magazine editor, and she was determined to document every aspect of the planning process. Modern Cinderella plans her own fairy tale, read the first headline. Photos of the preparations appeared weekly, the custom-designed bridesmaids' dresses, the hand-forged ceremony arch, the preview of Philip's spectacular cake. Did you see this week's article? I asked Mom during one of her calls. They're comparing it to Grace Kelly's wedding. Isn't that amazing? Olivia, she said slowly, don't you think this is getting a bit excessive? Oh no, I replied sweetly. This is just the beginning. 3 weeks before the wedding, Kate called. She'd never been one for confrontation, preferring to let our parents fight her battles. So this was unexpected. Liv, she said, her voice small. I saw the magazine coverage. It looks incredible. Thank you. I talked to my advisor. There's another graduation ceremony in July. I could switch. Don't bother. I cut her off. It's too late. The plans are set. Mom and Dad feel terrible. No, they don't. They feel uncomfortable because people are talking. Because for once, they can't control the narrative about our perfect family. She was quiet for a moment. I never meant to always come first. But you did, and you let it happen. And now you all get to live with that choice. The week before the wedding, my phone was flooded with messages from relatives and family friends, all variations on the same theme. How can you go through with this without your parents there? Can't you postpone it? Family should come first. I forwarded them all to a special folder labeled, For Later. Daniel found me in my office, reviewing the final timing schedule. You okay? I looked up at him, at his kind face and worried eyes. You know what? I really am. For the first time in my life, I'm not trying to make everyone else happy. I'm not being the understanding one, the responsible one, the one who gives way. I'm just being me. He smiled. That's who I fell in love with, you know. Not the perfect event planner, not the dutiful daughter, just you. 2 days before the wedding, the final piece of my plan fell into place. My friend at the magazine called to confirm the coverage details. Full spread, top photographers, immediate online release with hourly social media updates, she promised. The whole city will be watching this unfold in real time. Perfect, I said, thinking of my mother's habit of obsessively checking social media. Make sure you get lots of shots of the empty seats in the front row. The day before the wedding, I received a text from my father. It's not too late to change the date. I sent back a photo of the garden setup, the thousands of twinkling lights, the crystal trees, the floating candles in the reflection pool. You're right, I wrote. It's not too late for you to change your minds. But it is too late to save your perfect family image. He didn't respond. That night, at the rehearsal dinner, Daniel's parents gave a beautiful speech about welcoming me to their family. I didn't cry until his mother hugged me and whispered, "We'll be in the front row tomorrow, honey. We'll be there." Back in our apartment, I found Daniel adding something to his vows. Spoiler alert, he grinned. I may have included a line about choosing you first, every day no matter what. I fell in love with him all over again in that moment. The morning of my wedding dawned clear and perfect. As I sat in the bridal suite, surrounded by my closest friends and Daniel's family, my phone buzzed with a final text from my mother. The graduation ceremony starts in an hour. We really wish we could be there too. I looked at myself in the mirror, already in my hand-beaded gown, my hair and makeup perfect, and typed back 3 words. No, you don't. Then I turned off my phone. It was time for my moment, and I wasn't going to let them dim it anymore. As I stood at the entrance to the garden, waiting for my cue to walk down the aisle, even I was stunned by how everything had come together. Marco's crystal-draped trees sparkled in the late afternoon sun, their branches heavy with thousands of white orchids and roses. The pathway before me was lined with illuminated glass orbs that seemed to float just above the ground, creating a river of light leading to the altar. Daniel's father appeared at my side, looking dashing in his tuxedo. After my parents made their choice, he had quietly offered to walk me down the aisle. "Every bride deserves someone by her side for that walk," he'd said. "Ready, sweetheart?" he asked now, offering his arm. I took one last look at the empty seats in the front row, the seats that should have held my family. Someone had placed a single white rose on each chair, making their absence even more striking. Perfect. "Ready?" I said, taking his arm. The string quartet began playing their custom arrangement of A Thousand Years. Not the typical wedding version, but a haunting, ethereal adaptation that filled the garden like a spell. As we appear at the end of the aisle, 400 guests rose to their feet, gasping audibly at the sight. I'd chosen a dress that would photograph spectacularly, a custom-designed masterpiece with a bodice covered in hand-sewn crystals that caught the light with every movement, creating the illusion that I was wrapped in starlight. The cathedral-length veil, edged with delicate lace that had taken artisans 3 months to create, floated behind me like a cloud. But it was Daniel's face that made me catch my breath. He stood at the altar, tears streaming unashamedly down his cheeks, looking at me like I was every star in the sky. In that moment, I forgot about my parents' empty seats, forgot about revenge and perfect moments and society page coverage. All I could see was him. The ceremony was everything we'd planned and more. As we exchanged our vows under an arch of floating candles and cascading flowers, Charlotte's lighting design shifted subtly, bathing us in a warm golden glow that made everything feel dreamlike. Jin's cameras clicked constantly, capturing every perfect detail. "I choose you," Daniel said in his vows, his voice carrying clearly across the hushed garden. "I choose you first, every day, above all others. I choose you when it's easy and when it's hard. I choose you when the whole world tells us we're wrong. I choose you, Olivia, forever." I saw his mother dab at her eyes in the front row, right where she promised she'd be. The reception was a masterpiece of timing and spectacle. As the sun set, thousands of tiny lights hidden throughout the garden began to twinkle on, transforming the space into an enchanted forest. Philip's cake was unveiled to audible gasps, 6 tiers of hand-painted sugar flowers and gold leaf, with that magical rotating galaxy tire that actually seemed to contain its own universe. Eduardo's signature cocktails changed color as they were poured, each one telling its own story. The dance floor, hand-painted with a design that echoed the stars in my dress, lit up in patterns that followed the dancers' movements. Every detail was captured, photographed, documented, and immediately shared across social media platforms. I knew my mother would be obsessively checking her phone during Kate's graduation celebration. I imagined her watching the spectacle unfold in real time, seeing what she'd chosen to miss. The magazine's social media team was doing an exceptional job, posting stunning photo after stunning photo, each one more magical than the last. At midnight, just as the party was hitting its peak, my phone buzzed with a text from Kate. "Mom's been crying for hours. The graduation party is ruined. This isn't what I wanted." I handed the phone to Daniel without reading her message. Deal with this for me? He nodded, tucking the phone away. This was my moment, and I wasn't going to let them intrude on it anymore. The next morning, as Daniel and I prepared to leave for our honeymoon, the magazine's coverage was already going viral. Wedding of the century, the headlines proclaimed. Event planner's dream wedding sets new standards. Photos of the empty front row chairs with their solitary roses were featured prominently, with captions that told the story of parents who chose to skip the most spectacular wedding the city has ever seen for a college graduation. The society pages were brutal in their commentary. In an era where family values are supposedly paramount, one columnist wrote, "What does it say when parents choose to miss this once-in-a-lifetime celebration? One can only imagine the regret they must feel watching these incredible images from afar." My parents' social circle was merciless. Their phones were flooded with messages from friends and acquaintances, all expressing variations of shocked disbelief. How could you miss this? What were you thinking? Your own daughter's wedding. Their carefully cultivated image of the perfect family was shattered. No one wanted to hear about Kate's graduation, not when they could talk about the wedding that looked like it came straight from a fairy tale, the wedding her own parents chose to miss. My mother tried calling repeatedly as Daniel and I boarded our flight to Bali. I let each call go to voicemail, saving them in that special folder labeled "For Later." "Olivia, please," she begged in one message. "We made a terrible mistake. We should have been there. Please call us." "The photos are incredible," Kate said in her message. "I should have switched ceremonies. I'm so sorry." "We didn't realize," Dad's voice cracked in his message. "We didn't know it would be like this." But that was the point, wasn't it? They never realized, never knew, never saw me. They'd spent so many years looking past me, choosing Kate, assuming I would understand and accept and give way. They never imagined I could create something so spectacular, something they'd regret missing for the rest of their lives. 2 weeks later, lounging on a beach in Bali, I finally read through all their messages. There were hundreds of them, each one more desperate than the last. The full impact of what they'd missed was hitting them hard. Should we invite them to the reception we're having when we get back? Daniel asked, watching me scroll through the messages. I thought about it for a moment, then shook my head. No, they made their choice. Now they get to live with it. You're not worried about burning bridges. They burned the bridge, I said quietly. I just showed them what was on the other side. 6 months later, I won Event Planner of the Year for my own wedding. The photos were featured in every major wedding magazine, each one highlighting the stunning details, the magical atmosphere, and yes, those empty seats in the front row. My parents tried to make amends. They sent gifts, letters, tearful voicemails. Kate switched to part-time studies and moved back home, her own perfect daughter image tarnished by the backlash. Their social life became awkward, every event a reminder of the wedding they chose to miss. You could forgive them, Daniel suggested one night, watching me delete another series of apologetic texts. I could, I agreed. But you know what? I don't want to. For once in my life, I'm not being the understanding one. I'm not smoothing things over or making excuses for them. They chose Kate's 5th graduation over my wedding. They can live with that choice forever. A year after our wedding, I received a call from a prestigious client who had seen my wedding photos. I want exactly that, she said. That level of magic, that attention to detail. Money is no object. As I began planning her event, I realized something. My wedding hadn't just been about revenge. It had been about finally stepping into my own light, about creating something spectacular without dimming it to make others comfortable. It had been about choosing myself, just as Daniel chooses me every day. My parents still try to reach out occasionally. Last week, Mom left a message about how they're ready to move forward as a family. I saved it in my special folder with all the others. A reminder of the day they thought my wedding was skippable, and how spectacularly wrong they were. Some people say I'm being too harsh, that family deserves forgiveness. Maybe they're right. But as I look through our wedding albums, at the pure joy on our faces, at the magic we created, at the empty chairs that tell their own story, I know I made the right choice. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about hurting others. It's about showing them exactly what they chose to miss. And sometimes the most perfect moment comes not from being chosen, but from choosing yourself.